Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's video, my neighbor pointed her gun at me because I refused to let her use my jacuzzi during a cold winter day. Police end up coming and arresting folks. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the video. So I have a backyard outdoor jacuzzi that I keep covered during the winter. It's not because I don't like using it in the cold, but mainly to save energy and keep the water clean. Here in my area, winters can be pretty chilly and snow is not a rare sight. When the snow finally starts falling, the cover also keeps it from piling up in the tub. Cleaning snow out of the jacuzzi does not exactly sound like a fun winter activity to me, so I prefer to keep it snug under the cover until the weather warms up a bit. I never thought that this would ever become a problem for me though. But as things were, one day my demanding neighbor, let's call her Karen, spotted my covered jacuzzi in the backyard and decided she wanted to use it. Since I'm calling her Karen, you can guess where this is going. She is a bit, unpredictable. She has a history of confrontation with other folks in the neighborhood, though I don't really know what the topics of these confrontations were. However, you cannot find a single person here who has a positive view on this neighbor. Earlier, when she moved in, there were some friends who visited her, but one day she had a very loud argument with them in her front lawn, and ever since then, I have not spotted anyone visiting her house. Given her track record, I usually try to keep my distance from her. But on this particular day, she showed up at my doorstep knocking insistently. I peeked from the window that had a clear view to the entrance and hesitated to open the door, knowing what I might be in for. I know that if she was behaving like this, she was definitely here to cause some problems. But she did not stop knocking and I eventually opened the door. Karen wasted no time and straight up demanded to use my jacuzzi. I explained that it was covered for a reason. The temperature outside was colder than a polar bear's hug, and I did not fancy turning the jacuzzi into an ice cube. I figured it was a pretty reasonable explanation, but Karen was not having it. She went off on a tangent about how she needed the warmth and how I should be more neighborly, pretty ironic considering how her reputation is here in this neighborhood. I don't remember the exact conversation, so this is a brief rundown. Karen, I have a right to use neighborhood amenities, and that jacuzzi is one of them. You cannot just hoard it for yourself. Me, it's not about hoarding, even though I have every right to hoard it because it's my property and not a neighborhood amenity. Also, it's simply freezing outside and the jacuzzi is covered to keep it in good condition. It's not suitable for use right now, maybe when it's warmer. Karen, oh stop with the excuses and at least come up with logical ones. It's a frickin' jacuzzi, this is the best time to use it. I need to relax and you're here just being selfish. Open it up now. Me, it's not excuses and I don't need excuses to not allow you to use what is my property. So no, I cannot open it up for you or anybody. Karen, you're a terrible neighbor. I will make sure everyone here knows how inconsiderate you are. Me, if you want to make this a bigger deal than it is, then go ahead, I don't care. I'm just trying to take care of my property. If that bothers you so much, that's your problem. Karen, what the hell is your problem? Just open it up and get back inside. I'll be done in a few hours, but you're just being a Karen about it. Me, I don't care if it's a few hours or few minutes, I will not be opening it up just because you don't understand that the jacuzzi does not belong to you and you have no right over it. Karen, you're a selfish, inconsiderate jerk. Me, think whatever you want, but get out of here or I will call the cops. Karen, we will see how the cops help you when I'm done with you. That line was so oddly threatening, I still remember it clearly to this day. I don't know what her deal was, but there was something clearly going on with her, because I remember her face looked very sick, unnaturally pale, like it had no warmth. I have heard from some neighbor that Karen took some medicine, but in the last 2 months her condition seemed to have worsened and she was getting in many more severe confrontations with the neighbors. Later that evening, I heard a persistent banging on my door. As I approached cautiously, I was not surprised to see Karen, but now she seemed even more agitated than ever before, as she was holding a gun at her side. This stupid situation was becoming much more dangerous than I had anticipated. Karen, you wanna call the cops on me, huh? Do that now, you selfish prick. I told you I need to use that jacuzzi, and I won't take no for an answer. Me, Karen, you cannot bring a gun into this. Let's talk about it, we can figure something out. Karen, I've had enough of your excuses. Open the door and let me in right now. I was not sure if Karen would really start smashing windows, but I don't think she was above that, so I tried to stall for time, attempting to keep the situation from escalating further as I dialed for 911. Me, Karen, please let's think about this. I need a moment to uncover the jacuzzi. Just give me a minute, okay? At that, she got silent for a while before she started walking towards the side of the house where my jacuzzi was. I pretended to search for something in the house as I told the dispatcher what was happening, hoping help would arrive before things got completely out of hand. Karen was now standing near the jacuzzi and I continued stalling. Me, just a minute, I need to get this. I'll be right back out, just give me a moment. For some reason, Karen walked back to my front door and started banging again, asking me what was taking so long and to come out or she would fire at the windows. I was crouched and checking the doors and windows, praying that the authorities would arrive in time to defuse this situation. Soon enough, I could hear the sirens coming in this direction. But it seemed like Karen could not hear it over her screams that she was gonna break down my door, and she did indeed started throwing herself against it. The wailing sirens grew louder as the police arrived at the scene. "Officer, drop the weapon, ma'am." I could not hear Karen screaming anymore. Glancing through the window, I saw that Karen had turned her back to my door and she seemed to be frozen as she held up her gun towards the officer. Silently, I crept to the door, carefully turned the knob and stepped outside. The police seemed to have taken control of the situation, handcuffing her while she screamed in frustration, hurling accusations in my direction. When she was finally restrained, the police assured me they would handle the matter, and I watched from the safety of my home as Karen was driven away in the back of a police car, still shouting and cursing. In the aftermath of the incident, many new things about Karen came to light. It turned out she had many unresolved disputes with the neighbors, and some of those included her brandishing a gun on them. Concerns arose about the legality of her gun license given her volatile behavior and the evident misuse of her firearm during the altercation with me. The court, taking into account the severity of brandishing a loaded weapon and the questionable validity of her gun license, convicted Karen of aggravated assault for threatening me with a firearm. Considering the potential harm caused by her actions and the concerns surrounding her possession of a firearm, the judge handed down a sentence of 3 years in prison. When Karen appealed the initial sentencing in an attempt to secure a reduction, the court rejected the appeal on the grounds that even though she did not fire the weapon, her continuous violent altercations warranted the sentence. I think that later she was also admitted in an asylum or something, but I'm not too sure about it. And yeah, Ripe Stars, honestly, that is exactly where this Karen seems to belong. I would honestly not be surprised if she ended up in an asylum, and maybe that would be the best for her. But anyway, if you enjoyed the story, please don't forget to like the video and maybe even leave a comment, because that would help me tremendously. Thank you so much, and the next one is a Christmas malicious compliance story. Merry late Christmas. My friends Adam and Belle have a story about one of their neighbors and how he managed to stuff a 5-pound bag of coal in a Karen's stocking this Christmas by using malicious compliance. So this particular neighbor, Tim, and his wife Frances would go overboard on the outdoor decoration every Christmas. There would be lights, garlands, wrought iron reindeer statues, snowflakes, candy canes, and a 6-foot-tall Santa statue, a nativity set, etc. It was its own brand of charm, according to the neighbors. Unfortunately, earlier this year, Frances suffered a massive stroke and passed away. Tim was devastated, especially as Christmas came closer and closer. Frances' favorite holiday was Christmas. Tim told the neighbors around Thanksgiving that he was not gonna decorate the house that year. It was just too painful without Frances there. Everyone was sad, but they understood. Unfortunately, Karen did not get this memo. It's the week or so after Thanksgiving, and people who have not put up Christmas decorations are busy doing so. Adam and Belle were walking their dog, Domingo. Tim is out the front of his house getting the mail. Adam and Belle go up with Domingo to see Tim and say hello. While they are talking, a red minivan pulls into Tim's driveway and Karen steps out. Belle and Adam have never seen her before, but Tim recognizes her. "Good morning, Karen." "Yeah, hi. I was wondering if you were gonna put up your Christmas decoration this year." Adam, Belle, and Tim look at each other, uncomfortable. "I'm not gonna put up any decoration this year," Tim said. "And why not?" Karen asked. "Well, Christmas reminds me of Frances." "Well, what about my kids? They've been looking forward to seeing the house decorated. And the fact that you're pretty much the only house that is not decorated makes them really sad. What would Frances want?" Belle, Adam, and Tim just stared in astonishment. "We have had a pandemic and we need the cheering. They've been looking forward to this every year." Tim is looking both angry and brokenhearted. Adam and Belle are ready to tell Karen to go stuff it, but Karen sets the trap for Tim's malicious compliance. "We are gonna be here after church on Christmas Eve, and this house better be decorated." And with that, Karen gets back into her minivan and drives off. Belle looks at Tim and he's got a malicious smile on his face. She wants a decorated house? She's gonna get a decorated house. The weeks pass and Tim starts getting several packages delivered. He also starts putting things up in the yard, but they are covered with bed sheets, so they look like those Halloween ghosts. He also starts putting lights on the house. There's more lights than usual, but he doesn't turn them on at night. Karen and her minivan don't show up, even though Adam and Belle had alerted everyone in the neighborhood about her. Christmas Eve rolls around. Adam and Belle are invited to Tim's house for dinner to watch the movie Scrooged. They are also asked to BYOB. When they arrive, the curtains are drawn. Tim greets them with a big smile. They settle down and he details his plan, asking for their help. They are laughing at the end of it and eagerly agree. As they work, Belle notes that he's happier than they've seen him in a while. Tim says it's hopefully gonna get even better. By this point, it's still just light enough that they can see what they are doing, but just dark enough that you cannot see what's in the yard. They remove the bedsheets and laugh at all the decorations that have been set up. There's a nice dinner and watch the movie. Midway through the movie, Tim's alarm goes off on his cell phone. He pauses the movie, looks at Adam and Belle and says, "It's showtime." Everyone bundles up and they head to the sidewalk across the street. It's now pitch black and Tim's house still is not lit up. There's the usual cars driving through the neighborhood, with Karen's red minivan being at the end of the line. "Right on time," Tim says, taking a remote out of his coat pocket. They wait until the red minivan reaches the front. Tim presses the button. According to Belle, it was like the scene from Christmas Vacation when the Griswolds' house turns on. There is red, white and blue lights galore. The yard has eagle statues, stars and flags. Even banners, statues of liberty, etc. In the windows are lights that look like exploding fireworks. Tim grins and presses another button. All of a sudden, Star Spangled Banner begins to belt out through several speakers placed throughout the yard. As Adam, Belle and Tim are laughing as the minivan stops and parks, Karen gets out of the driver's seat and storms over to them. "What is that?" she shrieks, pointing to the house and looking about ready to blow a gasket. "It is my salute to all nations, but mostly America," Tim said. "Don't you like it?" "It's Christmas," Karen shouts. "I wanted you to decorate the house for Christmas." "You wanted a decorated house, Karen. You didn't say what holiday." And with that, Karen flipped them off, got back in the minivan, and then drove off. Tim turned off the music and lights and they head back to Tim's house to finish Scrooged. Tim told Adam and Belle as they were leaving for the night, "I think I'm gonna decorate my house like this every Christmas." Francis would have gotten a kick out of it. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I would say that is textbook picture-perfect malicious compliance for a Christmas scenario. Props to OP. The next one is an Am I the A-hole story. So my husband and I in our 30s have not been on a trip out of country for years. While he goes every year with his best friend. His reasons for going with him is because they both go to attend sporting events. This year though, my husband told me that I could go with him and his friends since they were visiting a new destination. He paid for my ticket and everything else since I'm a stay-at-home mom and I have no job. The kids were left with my mom. However, when I found out that he had booked first class for himself and his friend while I got economy, I just could not hold my tongue. I confronted him about it and he at first refused to discuss, and then when the argument got heated he yelled, "I paid for your ticket for Christ's sake. Isn't that enough?" And then kept on about how I should stop acting like I was a royalty and that if I come to think about it, even economy is fine for me since I technically don't work anyway. I cried because of what he said but decided to just not go altogether. He changed his tone and started begging me to just go with what he planned, but I declined. I went to pick up the kids from my mom's house and he came back 3 hours later, huffing and puffing about what happened. His friend sent me a text calling me entitled and said this was the reason why he did not want my husband to take me with them, and I just proved his point. I did not respond, but I blocked him since he has gotten increasingly rude over the past few months. He, my husband, said I keep crying about being excluded and this is what happens when he finally decides to include me. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for not settling for economy? By the way, he's perfectly capable of financing the trip. And here, Ripe Stars, let me know what you think about this in the comments. Do you think OP is the a-hole here or not? Someone in the comments said, "It sounds like your husband is more interested in keeping an unpaid nanny/caretaker than a wife/partner/equal." OP, do you have the option to become more independent in your marriage? Perhaps get a job or side hustle to earn money, etc. Do you have a separate savings account? Who handles all the money in the relationship? Do you have your own social circle that your husband doesn't interfere with? You don't have to answer, but please take a long, hard look at your relationship from all these perspectives, and if it comes down to it, please walk away. We all deserve love and respect in every and any relationship. If this post is a reflection of how your husband treats you on the daily basis, please walk away. Comment number 2, not the a-hole and he bought your ticket? No, you bought your own ticket because if you are a stay-at-home mom, then 50% of his salary is legally yours. It's not his money to give you, you and him have the money together. Comment number 3, not the a-hole, your husband's attitude is out of line. I absolutely hate it when sole providers act like this, treating their partners like lesser beings who should be grateful for every penny spent on them. As a sole provider myself, it enrages me, it costs me absolutely nothing to treat my partner like an equal. Additionally, you could always run the numbers by him, how much full-time nannies and housekeepers make, and remind him, as a stay-at-home mom, you damn well have a job and provide a service he should be grateful for. The argument is not about you having to write economy, it's the principle and what it implies. You are not worthy of first class and you should be grateful that he thought of you to begin with. What a joke. You were right to be offended and take a stand against this behavior. He needs to shape up and recognize your worth. The next one is titled The Vet and the Karen. I was not with him, my boyfriend is the vet in this, so keep in mind this is all second-hand through his experience as relayed to me. The incident occurred yesterday at the grocery store while my partner was shopping. This is actually a challenging task for him. He does not like all the aisles and people in stores, and he doesn't like that he feels distracted from paying attention to his surroundings by needing to concentrate on the list of items he needs. Because he is hard of hearing, he also cannot easily hear where people are, and this is hard for him. Also, it's worth noting that he has extra trouble hearing high-pitched sounds like kids' and women's voices. During the COVID lockdown, he has lost a lot of progress he had made with his anxiety, but he is working on getting back to where he was. He got a service dog now, which has helped him immensely, not just in public. He sleeps better now, and the dog will alert him when he is becoming anxious based on his behaviors and can calm him, which is really incredible. The dog has a vest, and if you read it, you would see he has a patch that says PTSD service dog, don't distract, and one that says hard of hearing handler. His dog is trained to guard him from people and alert him what side he's being approached from. This is not aggressive, the dog just uses its body to block him off and touches his legs while doing it so he knows someone is there. So he turns and saw this little kid looking up at him. He just told her the dog is working and she cannot pet him on the assumption that she had just asked him that. In response, the kid holds out her hand for the dog to sniff and she said, "Mommy says I can if I say hello first," or something along those lines. The dog does not react much at all, so the kid just starts hugging him. At this point, my partner stepped abruptly away from her and told her she needs to stop and to go find her parent. Now, he could not tell if the kid was old enough to read, but he's really not mad at the kid because a parent should be responsible for her in a store. And while I am sure he was probably very stern with her since he's not very great with people, especially kids even on a good day, he is also not someone who yells. Yet lo and behold, the child's grandma, or mother, who knows, appears and is telling him not to yell at the little girl, he made her cry and a bunch of other crap. He was only catching about 30% of what she was saying. He told her he has a service dog. She needs to keep the kid off. Read the vest. The lady rolled her eyes at him and continued berating him. He said he was just standing there largely ignoring her, thinking if she said what she wants then she will go and leave him alone. But then this woman snaps her hand in my partner's face and asks him, "Are you an idiot?" Thankfully, there was a couple shopping who must have overheard. The woman from this couple came and moved that woman out of my partner's face and looked like she was chewing her out until the Karen left the aisle. The man from that couple asked my partner if he was alright, and he turned out to be a veteran too, bonded a little over their tattoos, and I'm honestly still livid about it, and I was not even there. He has moved on. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I gotta say, in these kinds of stories, I really hope that the kids of Karens really turn out better than their parents. You still need to have hope. I really think that not all hope is lost here. Anyway, the next one is titled Revenge for the Kid. So this story takes place in the mid-2000s when I was at a secondary school, which is basically high school for you Yankee Doodle dandies. I was 13 and going through that awkward stage in life where everything is changing in you constantly. One thing that was changing was the amount of gas my body created after a particularly long series of curries and chilies that my family made on the regular, as they were cheap meals to cook and easy. Plus, despite being as English as Paddington Bear, we loved spicy food. So anyway, this story takes place over a series of French classes in which I had a showdown with this very petty French teacher who we will call Mrs. F. She regularly put kids in detention over everything, and while some was justified, like talking in class and not doing homework, for me, she decided that despite the fact that I was a half-decent student who was courteous and polite, because I would occasionally fart in class, that was enough to put me in detention if someone smelled it and made a fuss. I tried everything to stay away from this woman's wrath, like staying at the back of the class by a nearby open window, to asking my parents if I can have something that was less likely to bring me flatulence. This all came to a head though when I regularly was being given detention despite no obvious discipline issues. The school was not obligated to tell parents why I received detention, and the teacher didn't want to share, I think. For a while I kept it hidden, as both of my parents worked until I got home anyway, and generally I was thinking that they couldn't do anything about it. This was until I was put into after-school detention on my 14th birthday. Now my parents always made a fuss about my birthdays as it was close to Christmas, and they knew that I liked a day when I could pick anything for dinner and anything to do all night long. Now, this detention was scheduled to last for 2 hours, so there was no way I was getting home before mom and dad did, and they were pissed when they found out that for nearly 2 months straight I'd been losing break times, lunch times, and hours of my home life to this woman's insanity in her efforts to get me to stop farting. Now, my dad was home after my mom every day, and he asked my brother where my mom and me were, as my mother had come to get me after calling the school to find out I was in after-school detention. She was after all planned to be ready to take us all out for a paid reservation in an Italian restaurant, as my favorite food is and always has been lasagna. So while my dad is frantically trying to get the reservation changed to no avail, my mom is collecting me. When she finds out that dad failed to get the money on the reservation back or the time changed, she was not happy, but she was pissed when she found out everything about why I was in detention and how much time I had spent in it. Bear in mind that until this point I had disguised my after-school detentions as doing extra work for school projects, so I was regularly just given bus money and told it is fine. Now this time I thought I would try getting my French teacher to be nice, as it is my birthday, but no chance. So then the following day after my birthday, my mom took the day off work and I was called into the school office to have a sit down with my French teacher and the headmistress. My mom let me say my piece first, and I asked my mom I was trying to not disturb anyone, but sometimes it just happens. I made sure to be as innocent as possible. The headmistress asked Mrs. F what compelled her to think that flatulence in class was worth so much punishment, to which she replied because he needs to learn to control himself. My mom then went on about how much money the family had spent getting me home from school, because I could not take the 3 o'clock bus that my bus pass covered, and they had to spend close to £15 a week getting me home. She then added the cost of her workday she had to take off and the reservation that they lost on my birthday. She then did something I didn't see coming. She pulled out a pile of bus tickets and receipts along with a pay stub from work to demonstrate the cost she was having to expend going, so is the school paying me for all this, or are you, because I'm holding both responsible for the cost? In total, between the bus tickets and the lost reservation and pay for the day, it was about £250. Mrs. F then goes baldy, "I'll discipline your child until he learns that he will not disturb the class with his disgusting body." I shrunk at this statement just a little bit, and then my headmistress said something I will never forget. "Don't worry about these costs. Mrs. F will be paying for them in full out of her pocket before you leave today. If she wants to keep her job, as I can see your point that your child is not being a bad kid, just a little bit gassy. And Mrs. F, if you wish to put any child in detention from now on, I'll be reviewing it before approving the detention, as it is clear that you are abusing your power as a teacher. Now pay this lady her money and get back to work." With that, Mrs. F was fuming and agreed to pay my mother out of her paycheck. The school office handed the money over to my mother, who proceeded to spend it on extra Christmas presents for me and my older brother that year. Oh, and how did my mom finish up her petty revenge? Well, she told me to sit in front of Mrs. F's desk and loaded me up regularly on anything that will let me guff, which I did with her, never being able to punish me again. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I'm kind of speechless. That teacher was absolutely terrible, but I gotta say, it probably rivals my terrible math teachers. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist, where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.